Welcome to the latest CADS podcast, where we look back at another week in the life of Tottenham Hotspur, where we somehow managed to transform the beautiful game into performance art. Crystal Palace, a side that's been about as threatening as a sleeping kitten this season, just walked away from Selhurst Park with all 3 points. Bill Nicholson built this club on glory, but what we witnessed was more like a comedy of errors starring our £50 million striker, practicing his interpretive dance and Van de Ven gifting possession like it was Christmas morning. Pour yourself something strong, you'll need it, as we dissect another quintessentially Spursy evening in South London. This is the North London therapy session, where we turn pain into poetry and somehow keep coming back for more. I am joined tonight by David. Say hello, David.
Hello there.
And I'm also joined by A. How you doing, A?
Hey, how's it going?
All right, we are going to talk about 2 games tonight. We're going to talk about the AZ Alkmaar game and what we're going to call that, the Mikey Moore effect. Are we allowed to call him Mikey Moore, or is it still got to be Mikey Lewis? I don't know which one we're supposed to be using. Apparently, official commentator name is Mikey Lewis. Who knew?
What? I never heard that.
The commentator throughout the game, in the entire Aston Villa game, he just kept referring to him as Mikey Lewis. Not Aston Villa,
So
Crystal
freaky.
Palace. The entire Crystal Palace game just kept referring to him as Mikey Lewis. And eventually he said, I think I've got rugby league on my brain because there's a player there called Mikey Lewis. And I was like, okay. Could have sorted that out. But hey, Mikey Moore game.
Yeah.
But let's get it out of the way. We're going to talk about the one thing that David wishes us to talk about. He contacted me a little while ago and he said we should have 5 minutes at the start of every conversation where we just moan about Timo Werner.
No,
So
I
that's
did
what
not.
we're
I
gonna
said
do.
I didn't want to talk about Timo Werner anymore.
You said 5 minutes. You said 5 minutes of moaning about Timo Werner, and we'll call it that. So let's have 5 minutes of Timo Werner,
Okay,
and
actually,
call it a day after that.
I'm not going to moan about Timo Werner. I just feel it feels like it's like attacking a puppy because he seems like a nice guy, and he does so many things right. It's just so depressing when you see him through on goal and you just have no hope. And I've seen stronger back passes than his shot against AZ Alkmaar. And I just feel sorry. And in fact, I don't want him to be selected because it's traumatizing me. Not because he's so bad, because it's so upsetting seeing somebody that mentally deranged. I don't know what to say. It's just
Mentally,
it's that bad.
not mentally disturbed,
Broken. It's just
broken,
broken.
mentally broke. Yeah, absolutely.
He is broken.
No, that's probably the closest way of saying it. I like Timo. I think Timo's probably a great guy, probably a great teammate to have around the place. But you do not want him to be one-on-one against a goalkeeper. You don't want to have that resting on his shoulders. He's just not there.
Sadly, in the stadium, people really got after him. Really, really went after him in that match. So,
Which keeps coming back to certain elements of Spurs fans need to have a fall guy. They need to have someone they're moaning about. So it's been Brennan Johnson, it's been Timo Werner, and now some of those people are turning around and sliding it straight back to Ange Postecoglou. But hey, let's move on and just say hello to A. How you doing, A?
Hey guys. Yeah, it's not much to add about Timo, right?
It's
Can't
difficult,
finish.
isn't it?
Definitely low on confidence. You feel for the guy. He doesn't want
The
to
one
be
thing
bad,
I
but
was saying in his favour for so long is that he's doing the rest of the stuff absolutely fine. He's putting those balls across. He's getting involved in the teamwork side of things. He's a danger to the opposition. And then in the AZ Alkmaar game, he didn't even do that. He was missing simple balls across the goals, so it was really difficult to back him. And
defense
So
is
he
caught on
probably-
to it. Just give Timo the space
possibly.
and mark the other guys. Yeah. Nothing's gonna happen.
Give him the space to and time to think about what he might do, and he'll probably screw it up.
Mind you, in
But there we
Palace
go. I
game,
think that's our 5 minutes of Timo Werner complaints. So let's move on. We will stay on the AZ Alkmaar game, and let's talk young Mikey Moore. How did we feel about him?
I thought it was good for 20 minutes on his preferred side.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you're bringing a very young player in, you got to play him where he's most comfortable. So it's quite baffling for me that he played where he did. But it was promising. It shows that he, can adapt to a higher league. Because I would say that was like League One equivalent. And he terrorized them for a bit. And for a while, it was really joyous. And I think that was probably the best part of that game. Mikey Moore, it wasn't a great performance. I think it was another lackluster performance, and we got a penalty and scored, and that was it. He was probably the only bright spark in that game for me.
David?
Completely agree. He struggled a little bit on the right, but he still, put a shift in on the right in the first half. But when he went over to the left in the second half, for about, 10, 15 minutes, he was nearly unplayable. And there's a player that he really reminds me of, and that's Paul Gascoigne. The way he seems to just be able to ride a challenge and have just a little burst of pace and then miraculously come away with the ball. He's a player that's going to get people out of their seats and really get things going, rocking in the stadium. I thought that was, out of the time he was on the pitch, there was about 20 minutes where he was nearly unplayable, I think. And he nearly laid, was it Brennan Johnson on for a goal? As soon as Brennan Johnson came on, he almost set him up for a goal. He created so many opportunities. It was crazy. It was really, that was the only high point. It's maybe Madison showing some quite nice maturity as the captain, giving the ball to Richie so he could score. But I think that's about it, isn't it? Oh no, and there was another good thing about the game actually was most of the first team players had a really good rest so that they could come out roaring out yesterday against Crystal Palace after having a good rest.
Yeah, the one thing
Right, okay.
I would say is like you could see the difference in level from the fifth place team in Holland to the bottom three side in the Premier League. And
yeah, that's true.
You can't be harsh on Mike. It's his first experience, you can say, against the Premier League team. And not everybody hits the ground running at different levels, at a high level every time. So I think, you've got to persist with him. And that next time he'll be a little bit more comfortable at that level, and know what to expect. But we didn't help him. We didn't give him the ball enough. I think we didn't show him the confidence to say, okay, run at you, man, all the time. Doesn't matter if you lose it. Everybody's losing the ball. Let's just keep feeding him the ball. Run at the guy. And we didn't do that to him, for him. And nobody else really stepped up. And he had a difficult outing, but he's not to blame for that. I don't think the rest of the team is to blame for that. The setup's to blame for that. The whole approach to the game was so lackadaisical, and it didn't show him in a good light. But I think he's going to get better.
But I
So I'm
thought,
very-
Yeah, it wasn't
Mikey
his
Moore
first
was
minutes in the
responsible
league,
for-
but it was his first start.
Hmm.
So a bit
Yeah.
inauspicious for him in his first start. We do have our first comment of the evening. We've got Piyush Bhagwan, who says, is the caller South African by any chance? I do believe you're talking about Mr. A. Now, A is a man of mystery, an international man of mystery, and we are not allowed to talk about his background. He is here to talk about Spurs, and that is it.
Yes,
Oh,
there we go.
definitely.
Just going back to Mikey Moore, I'd just like to say that even though it was, it was a much more difficult outing against Palace than it was against AZ. The very few good things that happened yesterday were very often instigated by Mikey Moore. Often linking up with Udogie quite well. Things so. I'd just like to make that point. But yeah, it was a difficult day out. It was a difficult day out for everybody, especially the supporters.
It wasn't easy. It was a rough game for us, and I think once again we're doing the opposition a bit of a disservice by not giving them the credit that they deserve for making things difficult and playing a game that was likely to get them the points. I think we struggle against sides that don't come out to play football particularly. If you look at the teams we struggled against this year, they are teams that typically don't have the ball in play for much of the game. They will take it slow to restart the game. It'll be about 58% of the play will be actually the ball on the pitch time. The rest of it will be out or waiting. Everyone will be standing around. And I think we struggle against that. I think just our mentality isn't quite set up yet to recover from teams trying to break us down a little bit, from ones trying to stimmy us and stifle us. And that's what they did, and they did it well. And we're the ones that struggled.
Yeah, I think it's more than that. It goes back to the way we prepare. I mean, we can't expect teams to just give us the freedom. We know what's coming. We have time to prepare, and we don't. The stats that bother me is 5 wins in a year away, 3 in 2024, and our derby record is atrocious. And that tells me when the pressure's on, when the crowd's on your back, when there's a team willing to fight, we're not willing to match them. And I think you have to earn the right to play the game you want to play. And whether that means matching their intensity and their physicality and before, earning the right to then have the ball and impose ourselves. When we're not doing that, and I look at, we're so passive, and where does that come from? It's pre-Ange, but it's post-Ange, not post-Ange, but during Ange as well. And you look at him on the bench, just looking at the ground, hands in his pocket, and I wonder if that also sets a tone. Can't really say what's going on. That's his style, but I wonder if that permeates to the team. And our leaders, supposed leaders, don't step up. Romero looks a shadow of the person that he is. I know a lot of us were calling for him to show a bit more restraint in the way he plays, and I wonder if that's taken away something from his overall game, that he's lost something because he's not on the edge anymore. And I think that was always a danger. We spoke about it before, and maybe now we're seeing that. I know people talk about Van de Ven losing the ball, but what a horrible pass to deal with. Sure, he should have kicked it away, but we're just asking for trouble. We didn't earn the right to play out from the back. And we could see how they were pressing us. And the way they were pressing us, it left a little bit space behind them. We've got a big striker up front. And we could have made them think twice before, maybe get them to stop pressing as hard because of that, before we start playing it out from the back where we had a little bit more time. So it's a little bit of game nous, if you like, game intelligence that I think we're lacking. But it's hard not to be negative about that game.
Yeah, we had talking about Romero, we had a comment even before we started from John F, who said, I think someone here mentioned Romero at 6 with Dragusin and Van de Ven centre-backs. Yeah, it's been mentioned a few times. I'm sure it will come up again. And I think one of the biggest culprits of talking about that has just joined us. Hello, Ash.
Hey, guys, what did I miss? Nothing, I bet.
Well, what were you going to say, David?
Yeah, I was just going to say, going back to AZ Alkmaar, I really feel like Dragusin didn't show anything that made me think that he should be a starting centre-back for Tottenham. And, that was his first start since he messed up after 10 minutes against, was it Karabag? Yeah.
Yeah, Karabag.
And I thought he was extremely slow, ponderous, clumsy in possession against AZ, who, as A said, are championship level team. I was not at all reassured. So, okay, why not put QT in as number 6? But don't know who should be playing centre back.
I think it goes further than that, David. I agree with you, but do you want this version of QT playing number 6? I don't want this version of QT playing number 6.
I very famously don't want him at number 6 anyway, so I'm the wrong guy to talk to about that.
I think there was a case for it, or you could entertain the argument when it was the aggressive ball-winning leader He's been really passive of
for a
late.
player.
Yeah, he's very passive of late, and I don't know if he would do the job we think he could do at 6. That's another conundrum for us. So you could see why it wouldn't, it would be less of an option now as it would have been a bit earlier.
Hey, Dash, you just said all the things I wanted to say.
Hey,
Hey.
Hey,
In terms of our number 6 moving forward, I think we need to kind of look to the future and say, who is that player going to be long term? And the more I see of him, the more of young Mr. Gray. He steps up, he plays some wonderful touches, and he seems to be tactically adept. He seems to be aware of what's going on around him, and I just think, right, that's a player who we can potentially build on as a number 6. So let's do it, because Bissouma went missing against Palace. And
no,
although I think he can be...
Bissouma got overwhelmed against Palace in the first half. And one of the things that has got me the hump is it was clear to everybody at half time that the way it was set up was not working, was really not working, that Decky was on a tightrope for a red card, and in any case not at it. We were overwhelmed in midfield, and we didn't change it until 60-something minute, and we changed it for the weirdest plan B I could possibly imagine. So I just want to, not necessarily defending Bissouma, but the problem wasn't the man, it was the setup. I mean, and cards on table, when I saw the team selection, I said, excellent. I was really pleased, thought it was great. I think I turned up to the pub to watch it in exactly the same state of mind as Tottenham turned up to play the match, which was, relegation team. We've got our best team out. We're going to steamroller them, and this is going to be amazing. That's what I was thinking. By half time, it was obvious that was not what was going to happen. Changes need to be made. Bissouma wasn't the problem. The problem was that they were set up to stifle the midfield, put pressure on Bissouma and pressure on all the back, number 6 plus the 4 defenders. And we didn't make a change until way after half time. And then the change we made was just, bonkers. We had Solanke, who'd been totally isolated for an hour, and then we put somebody up next to him to be isolated with him. What was the thinking? What was the thing? We took off both our creative players. Sorry, it's just...
Yeah, I didn't get that.
If we mentioned Bissouma, you can have QT as number 6 if you want instead of Bissouma. Wouldn't change anything. Because, and you said, Stu, Crystal Palace were really excellent yesterday. Really up for it. We weren't up for it at all. Also, we needed to change something around, and we didn't change it fast enough. And when we did change it, the plan B was, we will say we want a plan B. But not that plan B. Terrible. Sorry, over.
So Dave, reading between the lines there, what are you saying?
I think he's saying he's not on the ant train just right now.
I was getting ready to get back on the. No, I don't want to go down.
I know you were. I know you. You were starting to be swayed.
No, it's not that. I don't want this to be about Ange in or Ange out, because I don't think that's the discussion.
I know.
But let's call out what happened.
Okay. So Dave, fine, because I'll be honest. All along, I've been saying, well, give him a season. Let's see. I'm not convinced until we see what happens. But you're essentially saying some things there, which sort of indicate where is the plan B or C. Should we have gone long if the Palace did, as you quite rightly noted?
Yes, we should.
Yeah. So what could have been the plan, the plan B, as opposed to taking off 2 attacking players, one probably.
He did a great plan B. He recently learned that he can make substitutes at half time. Yep. Remember at Brighton, he thought he shouldn't make substitutes at half time and leave people out there so they can learn their lesson. Now West Ham suddenly he can make substitutes, and also against AZ Alkmaar as well at halftime. Can change things at halftime. So congratulations, he's learning to be a Premier League manager, on our dime. Okay, but the plan B against West Ham worked great. That was a really good management by Ange. He saw the problem. He put on Sarr to protect Udogie and give us a base we could build on. Against Crystal Palace, where we were getting eaten alive in midfield, and further forwards as well, he didn't make that change.
Sarr would have been a great halftime move.
Sarr at halftime.
Yeah. And what about this other aspect? If they were so bent on and doing such a great job of closing down our defenders as we were trying to pass it out of the back, what about, since we do have Solanke, who might have been the only guy who came out of that game with any credit? I also have Richie. Why not try a bit more of a long ball game? Why not try it and see? Is that something you might have thought about as a plan B or C?
Well, we definitely need to mix it up, because passing it out from the back, I mean, we executed it really badly. We kept consistently making bad passes. I mean, really consistently making bad passes. So it wasn't working because they were and Stu, you're absolutely right. Crystal Palace were really good yesterday. Has to be said. And so at some point you have to give them something else to think about, and mixing up, not only going long. I didn't want us to turn into Graham Taylor's England, or anything like that. But sometimes going long and having somebody around Solanke to get the nod down or whatever means that they can't commit so many people into the press, and then they have to think twice about it. We just never did it.
Well, those are really good points. By the way, since I don't know if you guys brought it up, because the game was really incredibly pathetic, and I hated watching it. I think I turned it off early, and I said, "Well, I'll find out later if we actually equalized." Cootie, actually, not just he made two wayward passes in the first couple of minutes. Vicario made a wayward pass in the first few minutes, so that the tone was set. And then Van der Ven, our most consistent defender, made that cock up, allowing the player to beat him. And I'm going, boy, the tone was just set right from the beginning. So my question is, where is that mentality that you could see it all through the team? We were losing possession. We were just, what is it? Is it mental? What's going on there?
I think there's a mentality of players thinking they can just turn up and other teams will roll over for them. And our players are better on average than Crystal Palace players. They're paid more, they cost more. If you were going to choose 11 players to play on a team, you would definitely be going for more Tottenham players than Crystal Palace players. Maybe Adam Walton would get a look in, but the realistic thing is, it's about mentality as well. And Eze as well. Eze would definitely be an option in there.
Yep.
But the players have to turn up and they have to put the actual effort in. If you just think, just turning up is going to be enough to win us a game, it's not going to be that easy, because there's an opposition there, and an opposition who, however much they've struggled this season, there are good players in there, and they have struggled this season. But it was never going to continue that level of struggle. I don't think they're going to get relegated. But they were on the point of but we can't talk about us without referring to what they did as well. We can't just say us turning up. We can't just say us turning up is going to relate. Us turning up against a supposedly weaker team is going to result in 3 points. That's not the way that football works. You have to put the work in. You have to put the effort in. Yeah. And I think that's the problem. And I think realistically, sorry?
Who's at fault for that?
I don't know, because this is not just an Ange Postecoglou thing, and this is not just these players thing. It's been going on for so long. So how long has this been going on for? You can go back to Pochettino, before Pochettino. There were still games where players just didn't turn up. And where does that come from? Is there a tea lady somewhere that's got some malign influence that is really affecting us long term. Let's sack the entire tea lady staff. I don't know, but there's got to be something in there.
Here's the thought, because I've been a fan a long time. We attract, or at least the fans seem to want to have flair players, going all the way back. And you think of Hoddle and Ginola and Ricky Villa, you know them all. Them all. And flair players, for the most part, are not going to get dirty and get stuck in. Maybe that's part of it. It continues on, is that, that's part of our DNA. We want to see entertaining football, so we'll go for the fair players. I actually thought, I looked closely at the Palace lineup. Of their outfield players, 7 of their starting outfield players, were of African descent, meaning guys who are really strong and athletic. And I'm going, gee, it'd be nice to have a few players like that in our team. Even that center forward, I thought, wow, have a battering ram like him would be kind of great. So anyway, wonder if it's gone on for that long. I think it's part of who we are as Tottenham. And even that famous lads, it's Tottenham, because we attract, the prime example of that, Maddison, a flair player who, when he's on his game, is fantastic, but really ain't going to get stuck in, What do you guys think about that?
I think Maddison's putting in more defensive effort this season than we've ever seen from him. And probably more than anybody saw at Leicester as well.
I would have left him on yesterday. I didn't think he was all that bad in an overwhelmed midfield. Decky needed to come off.
Decky needed to come off. He was.
I think we were lucky. We were very lucky to finish that with 10 men.
Sure.
Very lucky.
And mainly Madison because of the Van der Ven foul on just off the halfway line. That was, for me, that would be a professional foul, last man, 9 times out of 10.
That as well. Yeah. I mean, we were so lucky it was only 1-0 yesterday. It could have been 3 or 4. Could have been 3 or 4. Really could have. Bad finishing from them. So what do I think? I don't believe that it's DNA. And I think somebody on CADS, and I can't remember who it was, said, actually, we see this because it's Tottenham, but we only watch Tottenham. Other teams have days like this as well. And we just think it's Tottenham, and that might actually be true. I don't think there's obviously not something in the walls or in the tee or whatever. It's a different problem with each manager or each set of players. Yesterday, there was no reason for us to be so flat. There was no reason. Most of the players had a rest midweek. Most of the players had had a rest midweek. So there was you can't talk about mental fatigue. You can't talk about physical fatigue. This is preparation. It's setting the tone. And so, say it, setting the tone comes from the top.
Absolutely. And also down to the field level, as much as we talked about Cootie, we had this discussion a few weeks ago or before about being captain. You know what? He's been captain the last few games, and he hasn't shown out. So I think you said that earlier. He's not that driving sort of tackling sort of giant. Something's up there. Yeah, so there is definitely, and I think you're right, Dave, there's stuff from the top.
Yeah. And I think did I see something in the post-match press conference from Ange where he said, should we have gone and tried to play their type of game? Should we have tried to match them physically? And I'm just thinking, yes, you should have.
Maybe a bit more.
Yes, of course you bloody well should have. Because if you don't, you're going to get steamrolled, mate. And he was saying, no, I want to play our way. Well, you can't play your way when the others aren't letting you. You have to play another way. And so, again, it comes from the top. If the message is when they're out muscling you, when they're out fighting you,
out hustling,
keep doing the colouring in, boys. It'll be fine. It won't. And it comes from the top.
Absolutely.
I think this comes down to Ange's thing. Ange's thing is we are going to play the ball out. We're going to keep possession. We're going to make our football work. And, you know, if plan A isn't working, we'll just do plan A better.
Yeah,
okay,
it's true.
It's really nice, and I'd love to see that, but right now we're not getting the plan A better. When plan A doesn't work, things do tend to fall apart. And we have seen switches to more of a plan B. We're not seeing long balls, but we're seeing substitutions being made. We've seen Udogie playing more of a left wing back role. We've seen Sonny playing more in the positions that we saw him really excel in the past. We've seen Maddison switch into different roles as well. So there are options, and we can do things slightly differently. But at the end of the day, however much we complain about it, and however much we would, well, maybe not me, but certainly you would like to see a plan B, we're not going to get that, because that's not the way that Ange works. We either need to live with what we've got, or try and find a way of moving on. And yeah, that might be difficult.
I disagree. That he had a plan B against West Ham. You know, he gave us a more solid base to build on. He went and fought for the midfield against West Ham. Against Crystal Palace, he didn't. He abdicated the midfield, and I don't understand why. You know, as much as I can give him massive props for what he did against West Ham, you know, if he's responsible for the improvement against West Ham, then he's also responsible for the collapse against Crystal Palace.
And I don't think he'd disagree with you on that. I really don't. I think he's the kind of person who takes responsibility for the bad as well as the good.
Absolutely.
I don't think you guys are on X anymore. I'm going to call it X because it isn't Twitter anymore. It used to be, but it's no longer that. But there's a guy on there called Simon Lehane who is very level-headed, and, you know, I really like his posts. And he came out with something, and he said, as you go through a rebuild, as you go through a project like this, there are going to be times where things don't work out and everything looks bad, and you can see at that point the progress that we've made, but you can also see the progress that we still have to make. And I think that's where we are. We're at the point now where we are playing very well at times, but we've also got games where we look completely abject, and we really need to step up. And that is the last couple of percentage. That is the last few things you need to get right before you start to have a real difference. And I really hope we're there, because if we can get those last few things right, we'll start to see massive changes and massive differences in the future.
I'd like to, and I agree. I'd like to see, like yesterday's game. I'm sure Dave would agree. I'm sure you two too. You know, okay, we're not quite good enough to compete with the very big teams, but please show us an effort. You know, and the effort wasn't there yesterday. You know, some of those other games where we missed a lot of chances, that's a result of effort. And yeah, we could have blown them away, but we didn't. But we were at least showing the effort. That effort was really missing yesterday. That's okay. That's this quote from this fellow. Good stuff. But you would think, okay, maybe we can't get all the results all the time, but let's every game put an effort in. Can we at least hope or expect that level of effort every game?
Well, that should be the minimum. I mean, putting in the effort should be the minimum for every single game.
Absolutely.
There shouldn't be a question.
And it wasn't just.
And I'm sure Ange is wondering what the hell happened in terms of where was their minimum level of effort, because it wasn't there yesterday.
From the beginning, from the very first time Romero gave the ball away, I went
from the very beginning, and it just carried on, and I think it got worse. I mean, we were not. Oh. I know we may. But, I think we slightly edge things in some areas, but they were the better side because we let them be.
But we're not only rebuilding; we also have like a manager that's learning to manage at this level.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, David, because I don't think any of us are totally convinced, but we would like to see him succeed. And if not,
I want to see him succeed.
Then if not, then time to move on.
Yeah, we keep coming back to this conversation about. We keep coming back to this conversation about whether we're going to push on with Ange or whether we want him to succeed. At the end of the day, I want a manager like Ange to be at the head of the club. We want someone who has that intention to play good attacking football it's not working all the time at the moment, and maybe it's not going to work all the time in the future. But he at least has the right intention and seems to be having an effect on the squad in terms of getting us playing the right kind of football. We won 7 out of the last 9 games, for crying out loud. It's not as bad as it has been.
But Stu, I cautioned over and over again during that run, saying we've played some poor teams and we've played some teams that want to try and play football and not good enough to play football against us. And I said, what is going to happen when we run up against a team that is well organised and wants to fight?
Well, we may well find out in the next couple of games, because we've got Manchester City on Wednesday in the Carabao Cup, and then we have Aston Villa on Sunday after that. Those are not going to be easy games. Both of those sides will be up for it. Man City apparently will be playing a rotated side, but let's be serious, they're not going to be rolling over or just saying, okay, well, you can have this one. They're going to want to win that game, because if they bring in their reserve players that don't get a huge amount of pitch time, those players will be thinking, this is my chance to stand up and get myself a regular place in a title chasing side. And they have no doubt about it, this is a side that will be challenging for the title, legal challenges notwithstanding.
Yeah, and Aston Villa, that coach over there has done. He's a successful coach. He has been successful elsewhere, maybe not so much at Neighbours, but I like the way that he gets his team ready all the time. And they've got some dicks on that team, like Matty Cash. Yeah, we don't like it when he's kicking our players, but if he was playing for us, we'd go, yeah, keep doing that.
We could have done with Coco yesterday.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. There was, of course, some fairly big news coming out today. Erik ten Hag got the old tin tack, the Spanish elbow. He was on his way out. Finally, it's been a long, long time coming. Do we think if Ange Postecoglou wasn't already in a job and under contract, that they may well be looking for someone exactly like him? A club builder, a squad builder, someone with the right kind of attitude, someone who wants to play attacking football. Do we think they would go for an Ange Postecoglou at the top of Manchester